How do we get a viewer to care about a character? You know, we see so many films with great production value, but there's a disconnect. We don't feel connected or even interested in the characters. So how is this achieved?
One of the biggest mistakes writers make is in how they create character. And they've heard this about, you know, we need to care about the main character, which is absolutely true. We do want to care about that main character. But how they go about it is often wrong, which is they think that the way that you get an audience to care about a character is you make that character as detailed as possible, meaning we give them as many character traits as we can. This is not the best way to go, because those tend to be very superficial elements of a person. And that's not what makes an audience care about a character. It's interesting that what makes an audience care about a character really comes down to only two things: the weakness, the fundamental weakness of that character, and the character's goal in the story. This is why in my story classes, it's always the first thing I talk about. And they are, by the way, the first two steps of the 7 major story structure steps that I was talking about earlier. Weakness, need of the character. In other words, what is that personal problem inside that is hurting the hero in such a fundamental way that it's ruining their life? It's very deep. And the entire story is going to play out the solving of that problem. The way they're going to solve that problem is by going after a particular goal. They don't know at the beginning that by going after this goal, they will eventually deal with their great internal weakness. But if it's a good story, that's exactly how it will work. Now, I often talk about what I consider to be the most important element of good writing, the mark of a really good storyteller, which is that plot comes from character. Now, those are big words, and a lot of people, oh, well, you hear that, well, what actually does that mean? It means a lot of things, but the most important thing it means is that you create a goal for your hero, which will eventually force that person to deal with their deep weakness. If you do that, the plot comes from the deep source of the character, and you've told a great story.